Well, hello, I'm Jan McDowell. I want to thank Heather of IGA and Kathy of Northeast Tarrant Democrats for putting this together tonight. I think it's a great opportunity for everybody to get together. First thing I want to say is, like, one of the questions that came up when Crystal spoke was, what are your top 3 issues? And that's kind of a resonant thing that's always part of the deal, but I am thinking that right now, this minute, we set that aside. There are 2 issues that are existential threats to our nation that we need to be laser focused on, and those are to preserve our democracy and to preserve our planet. And all the other issues are absolutely important. They're critical and they're at crisis levels, but we have to be focused at the same time, but hopefully doing it all at the same time, that we have to save our democracy and save our planet. Those are, like I say, existential issues. If we lose either one of those, it's game over. So we have to do that. Then people always want to know, why did you get started in this? And here's why I did. About 8 years ago, I saw a documentary film that was an Academy Award winner. It was called Inside Job. And it told all about the global financial crisis, where the mortgages and the whole global financial system was hanging on by a thread, going off the edge. And it told how the people in our government had stood by and watched it happen over decades with deregulation and all of the things that they could see were heading us in a bad direction. It was evident that they knew that these were not good policies and that they were going to cause pain and heartache for millions of Americans. But by golly, the economy was just bubbling along and people were making money and it was great. Sound familiar? And so eventually we get to the point where we are, like I say, just hanging on by our fingernails, about to fall off this cliff. And when I saw that movie, I was with a group of friends at a friend's home, and the man who was hosting us, at the end, we were all so angry. How could our government do this to us? And they set us up and cut us off. And as everybody's so mad, this man says, well, nothing's going to change unless different people run for office and different people get elected. And it was, like a light bulb went off for me. And I thought about it over that weekend, and I decided to myself, well, one of these days, I'm going to run for Congress, because I thought I might be a person who could try to help that. So it was not something that I did analysis and polling and looking at the maps and the percentages and the points and where's a good place. I looked at my district where I've lived for 40 years in Carrollton in District 24, and I saw the problem and I tried to focus on finding a solution to that problem. It wasn't about a political career map for Jan McDowell to do something. It was, here's a problem. I want to focus on seeing what I can do to make that better. So that's what I've been doing. I started in 2016 when, as you might remember, District 24 was just on nobody's map anywhere. It was just totally a wasteland and Republican control forever and ever, amen. And I said, I'll run. And I worked hard. We lost by 17 points, but Marchant was at about 56%, which was lower than his normal, and some people seem to be surprised at that. And we kept on in 2018. There was this thing called blue wave starting to build. And so, by golly, we came within 3 points of winning that seat last November. And I think now you're seeing the results of that with Kenny Marchant going, maybe not so much, and not willing to take that on again. When you have a big goal, you don't take it as a one and done kind of thing. It's a big project. It's going to take some steps and some continuing work, and nevertheless she persisted. And so that's That's kind of where I've been going. So the elephant in the room that I've heard, and maybe some of you have seen this on Facebook or thought it, gosh, she's already lost twice. Why would we do this again? But in 2016, I'm convinced that there wouldn't have been a person on the planet who could have put their name on that ballot with a D after it and won this district. It just was not going to happen. But we got in there, and my name was on the ballot. My team worked hard. 2018, we did so incredibly much better, but I don't think that is a strike against me either. And I am proudly trying to close that last 3 points and get there in 2020. I think it's a huge accomplishment. It's just right for the taking. The other thing I like to think about, by the time the 2020 election comes around, Kenny Marchant will have been representing our district for 16 years. That's 16 years that all of us have had a supposed representative in Washington who's been totally inaccessible. You can't reach him. He doesn't do anything that agrees with any of the opinions and values that you hold. He's not accessible. I think it's this month is the 10-year anniversary since the last time he held a town hall. I think that's unconscionable. So I think it's important for there to be somebody that you can have access to. I'm here. I've been here. I've been coming to all of the group meetings for about 4 years now. I attend events around the district all the time. Just today, I met with a voter in in Capel, who reached out to me, and I sat down and met with her, and she's awesome. She's just going to be starting into law school, a very bright young woman who's part of the great future that we have ahead of us. Recently, I've gone to 2 vigils downtown for the immigration crisis. Over the weekend, I saw the play Crossing the Line that was all about the immigration crisis. I went to a Dallas County voter election community meeting about the new voting system starting this November. I think Tarrant County's doing the same thing with the paper ballots and where you can vote anywhere on election day, just like you do during early voting. So I was at that meeting. I drawn a blank on all the other things. I had a long list. I was at a DART meeting to talk about the Cotton Belt line that goes all the way across the middle of District 24 going to DFW Airport. I am just there all the time. I think that's a huge part of what it means to be a congressional representative, is to represent the people of the district, to be there where they can see you, access you, talk to you, and see what you're all about. And kind of a nutshell summary. One thing that I've heard recently, and this was actually a borrowing from Elizabeth Warren. I hear this as kind of a soundbite piece that she says sometimes, is that it's all about how do we think government should work and who do we think government should work for. And I think that is a really good synopsis of what it's all about. And my very quick answer to that question is, it needs to work efficiently, effectively, justly, and for all of us. So I don't know how I'm doing on time. I know I've got Laura's question that I brought up here with me, and I want to leave time for your questions. So let me do this one first, so get it in. About Medicare for All. My bottom line is I want to have everybody have affordable, accessible health care. And I'm not real dug in on which program it is as far as what it's called. I'm actually going to be meeting with a man on Saturday who was a CFO for a hospital for 22 years, and I'm planning to get into the weeds a little bit more with him as far as what the difference is with Medicare for All and the public option, and where there are better choices one way or the other. But I think I think to have that North Star that healthcare is a right and that everybody needs to end up with healthcare is the biggest thing that is important to me. And then she asks all about people with disabilities. My biggest connection to the disability community right now is Laura Lehman. Knowing her and meeting Victor, she's always there as a reminder of what that's about. There's also a supporter in Carrollton who is a special ed teacher in the Carrollton Farmers Branch School District. And she was telling me that she teaches a group that are the very, very lowest level disabled. She said they range in age, as far as functionality, from 18 months to like 4 years or something. I mean, just incredibly low level. And she's a dynamic, wonderful person, and God love her for being the teacher that helps make that happen. I also attended, this has been several months back, a disability symposium that they held at SMU, where I listened to professionals and students and just various talks about disabilities and the issues and how people react and how they're treated and that kind of thing. So I'm always listening and learning and trying to synthesize and get perspectives from all sorts of different places. John, you had your hand up.
It's going to be the same question. I was just thinking, how are past, present, and future plan to support the Democrats and the Democratic Party, kind of in the style of a Cindy Shepard or a Steve Riddle or a Sergio De Leon, that you are going to be a supporter of the Democratic Party and articulate?
Right. As far as what I've done, I was kind of like Crystal when I was young. I was not involved in politics. I had 2 kids. There was just a lot going on, so it wasn't politically motivated. It was about 2010 when I started watching the news about the upcoming disastrous election of 2010 and how horrible it was going to be. And I Googled and got on the phone and called the Denton County Party. I actually live in Denton County, and said, how can I help? And they said, you could be a precinct chair. Okay, so I became a precinct chair. And then I also was the treasurer of the Denton County Democratic Party for a while. There was a man who ran for District 24 in 2014. He told me he just really wanted there to be a name on the ballot. He didn't run much of a campaign at all. But when I met him, I was told, oh, here's this guy that's going to run. Will you be his campaign treasurer? So I did that and served in that role, and figured I already knew in my mind that one of these days I wanted to run, so I figured it would be a good learning experience and a way to support Democrats. I've done some block walking and phone banking for Democratic candidates before it was my turn, and have just kind of been, in the trenches and helping out. What else?
I have a question.
Yes, definitely. Sure. I don't know if I bring it way out here.
I'm no Heather. Some Democrats believe we should be moderate in our approach. We're moderate, they say.
Close to your mouth.
Some Democrats believe we should be moderate in our approach. If we're moderate, they say, we can attract independents, libertarians, and moderate Republicans. Others, most notably Libby Warren, say we should be progressive, that we should stand for high democratic ideals, like finding a way for citizenship for dreamers. But there's a dichotomy here, because if a person is moderate, they may indeed be able to attract the moderate Republicans, etc. But they might repel Democratic-based voters. I'm thinking about the people in Detroit, for example, blacks and people who won't come out until you really rally. And as a progressive, maybe there is something to that you would do kind of, where do you stand?
Good question. My heart, my gut tends to be pretty progressive and liberal. I've heard some people also say that there's this mythical moderate voter that's out there that's going to come, elect people that get to be, wishy-washy or middle of the road. I think there's a big difference in this question between whether you're talking about the primary or the general election. Now, I don't in any way mean to say that I'm going to change what I think or what I say or what I believe between the primary and the general election. But there's also a difference in what you talk about, how you phrase things maybe, that might be different when you're running against a bunch of Democrats to be the one Democrat, and then when you're running against the Republican. I'm a CPA, so I can talk about, I posted on Facebook, I think it was, that I don't see how Republicans can begin to even say with a straight face that they're for fiscal responsibility. Give me a break. So, I can talk about those kinds of things with Republicans and point out, where there are ways to make our budget and our fiscal house more responsible than what they've been looking at. So when it comes to saving our democracy and our planet, there's no room for half measures and halfway there. I mean, we've got to do those things, or we're done. Yes.
The same as before. Do you support the Green New Deal? Do you see that as a path?
Yeah, I don't. Questions about the Green New Deal. Since that's not an actual bill, there are, I'm sure, parts of that I wouldn't, go for. In concept, though, absolutely. I think it's, not a one-size-fits-all. It's an all of the above. If you have an idea that's going to help a little bit, let's say yes to that one, and somebody else has an idea that's going to help a little bit over here, we'll say yes to that one too. And we need all the good ideas ginned up to make a change. I think we have so many brilliant people in this country. I'm convinced that if you fund research and development and turn these people loose to come up with great ideas, I have no doubt that we can do it. And we just need to take away the roadblocks that are in their way and let them go for it. I think it's too important to do anything else. Yes?
How would you save the planet and save democracy?
Well, Save the Planet is, things along the line of the Green New Deal. All of the above on all the great ideas people have. Wind and solar and hydro, whatever, and the storage. I did my little piece by putting solar panels on my roof. All of the good ideas that we can do and that need to be done to curb the global warming crisis. And it is a crisis. At Northeast Tarrant Democrats just last month, they had a speaker who's an expert on that, who was showing like a lot of the stuff that Al Gore had put together. And it's terrifying. And it's not put together to be terrifying, it's just to let people know that this is a real, today it was that the food supply is in danger soon. So, that kind of stuff gets your attention. Yes, it needs to be addressed and taken care of. Saving our democracy, is that 2 minutes?
1 minute.
1 minute, okay, so I need to talk really fast. I think that there were a whole lot of things when Trump came into office. We found out that a whole lot of things that we thought were laws were really just norms, like releasing your tax return. And just thing after thing after thing that he's done. And this paragraph says, the president's exempt from this. We need to fix those laws. We need to, I mean, it's critically important that we get the Senate, and if we could get, what's her name, McGrath to beat McConnell and get him gone. We just need to codify a lot of the things that we thought were in place to make our country stronger. I mean, I've got an appointment next, 2 weeks from now, I think, to speak with a political science professor at SMU that I've met with several times about some ideas like that and what we can do to you know, what things would be effective and efficient and beneficial to promote, so, yeah.
All right, thank you, Dan.